Hi everyone, it's Crystal from Tengah Property here. So the past weekend we saw two projects being launched, one being Tengah Garden Residences and the other being Vela Bay. So if you're sitting on the fence thinking which project you should go for, watch on. Because in this video, I'll be breaking down to you whether the numbers make sense, what your exit strategy looks like, and a few things I think not a lot of people are talking about. So now before we dive in further, let me give a quick snapshot of both projects. We have first of all Vela Bay in District 16 all the way in the east side of Singapore, developed by Singhai. Total 515 units across two towers of 31 stories, ranging from 1 bedroom plus study all the way to 5 bedroom and penthouses. So this is actually right beside Bayshore MRT on the Thomson East Coast Line. 99-year leasehold and expected vacant possession in 2031. So interestingly, this is the first new launch in Bayshore area in over 25 years. So the last one was actually Costa del Sol. So all the way in the other side in the west, we have Tengah Garden Residences located in District 24, developed by Hong Leong Holdings, Guaco Land and CSC Land Group. Total of 863 units across 9 blocks of 16 stories each. So ranging from 1 to 4 bedrooms right beside Hong Kong MRT station on the Jurong Regional Line. 99-year leasehold as well and expected TOP in 2029. So this is also Tengah's very first new launch private condo.
Nice.
What the developers actually paid for the land? If you're a serious buyer, you should actually be asking this question. Because land cost is one of the biggest factor, right, in which what you will end up paying for. So imagine if a developer paid a lot for the land, naturally they will also need to price the development higher because they need to pass on this high land cost to you. So now let's take a look at what developers actually paid for Vela Bay. Actually 8 developers bidded for this plot of land. So this tells us that developers are very confident in this area. They bid very competitively. In fact, the winning margin was only 0.8%. Okay, that time was the highest land price for OCR area. Then next, we move on to Tengah Garden Residences. Here, we only have 3 bidders who bidded for it. It was eventually won by Hong Leong-led consortium at 821 per square foot. So interestingly, this is also one of the cheapest land costs we have seen for a site with residential, with commercial on the first story. The last one that was below 1,000 per square foot was actually where Seneca Residences is at now. That was awarded at 930 per square foot. With that in mind, what does this mean? Will you be overpaying for it? What are the developers pricing these new launches at? So for Vela Bay, we're estimating an average of 2,800 per square foot. So you can see the starting from prices. For 1 bedroom, we're looking at 1.2 mil. For 2 bedroom at 1.4 mil. For 3 bedrooms starting at 2.2 mil. And 4 bedrooms starting at 3.1 mil. And 5 bedrooms starting at 4.5 mil. And then next for Tengah Garden Residences, we're expecting an average of 2,100 per square foot. Starting from price for 1 bedroom is actually 980k. For 2 bedrooms is 1.1 mil. 3 bedroom 1.5 mil, 4 bedroom 2.28 mil. So knowing all these entry prices, does these numbers actually make sense? So what we need to look at is the past resale transactions of similar properties. What are the current new launches that can be an alternative for you? And what are the future GRS being sold at? So now let's take a look at similar projects transacted at on the resale market. So for Vela Bay, we will take Seaside Residences as comparison. This is a relatively new development, TOP in 2021, same 99 years leasehold, offering sea views as well as non-sea views. So for Seaside Residences, average transacted price is at 2,360 per square feet. However, this is a non-harmonized project, so after we factor in harmonization and adjusting for the age, right, Seaside Residences should be transacting about 2,700 per square foot. So if Vela Bay average is at 2,800 per square foot, technically you're only paying a 4% premium.
Nice.
But we have to note in mind, Seaside Residences now is only 5 years old. But by the time you are able to sell your Vela Bay, Seaside Residences will already be 10 years old. So that age gap actually widens and pricing will work in your favor. Next for Tengah Garden Residences, because in Tengah there's no private developments for us to compare yet. So we'll take J Gateway to compare. This is a 2017 development. So it's about 9 years already. Right now, transacting at about 2,000 per square foot. So if you add in the harmonization, adjusting for the age, so it works out to be around 2,500 per square foot. So if Tengah is launching at 2,100 average per square foot, if you go in that price, I think that's a genuine entry advantage. So after we compare past resale transactions, what are the current available new launches out there in the market right now? So for Vela Bay, because it's in D16, let's take a look at the new launches in D6, which is Bagnall House. This is a freehold development. Right now, there's available listings at 2,600 per square foot. But again, this is not harmonized. So after harmonization, we're looking at about 2,700 per square foot. This will be in 2028, right beside the Thomson East Coast Line Sungai Bedok MRT station as well. So if Vela Bay is launching at 2,800 PSF, you are paying a bit higher than Beckner House. But Vela Bay actually has full condo facilities with tennis court. Then over at Tengah Garden Residences, you look at nearby comparison, Jayden is transacting at 2,590 per square foot. If you add in harmonization, looking to transact around 2,700 per square foot. If you can enter Tengah at 2,100 per square foot, I think that's a very good price. Then of course, if you want to compare what is within Tengah itself, we only can take the latest EC that's were launched, which is Auto Place and Novo Place. Both transacted at about 1,700 per square foot. So usually ECs to private condos is about 20 to 30%. So if you take 1,700 to Tengah's 2,100, that's about 24% premium, which puts us right in the middle of the 20 to 30%. I think that is quite a reasonable price, that it doesn't come with the restrictions of an EC. When we take a look at future supply, were the recent land bids that were awarded in the area. We have Bedok Rise GRS that was awarded recently, drew a total of 10 bids. So again, very high competition, very high demand from developers. So it was awarded at 1,330 PSF. So this is just slightly lower than Vela's base PSF. Okay. This 1,330 PSF, it means that developers are likely to launch this project from 2,600 PSF. But however, to be fair, Bedok Rise and Vela Bay are also quite different products because Bedok Rise is inland, it does not offer the sea view that Vela Bay has. So even if it comes in cheaper, that's a consideration as well. Then over in Tengah, we have a recent GRS awarded at Lakeside Drive for 1,132. So with 1,132, the developer is likely to launch this as 2,400 PSF. So if you compare that to Tengah Garden Residences average PSF of 2,100, that is 13% cheaper. And that gap might really be your cushion going in. Okay, we talk about exit strategy, because if you cannot sell, you simply cannot move on. You also cannot earn. So before you buy, you also need to know who are you potentially selling to. And so for Vela Bay, your exit buyers are D15, D16 people who love the lifestyle, who love the East Coast story, want to move away, because they always say East side, West side, right? Interestingly, Bedok, right, has actually one of the biggest number of resident households in Singapore. 97,500 households, from HDB dwellings to condos to landed. So as you can see over here, landed, we have about 11,000 households that are staying in landed developments. So that's quite a big number as compared to across Singapore. That is just the number of people. Affordability is also another thing. So another study done by SingStat, right? In terms of affordability, we're looking at 20K and over income. So this means residents' households with income over 20K. Why I use 20K is because, for instance, you buy a 2.5 million unit in Vela Bay, and looking at 5% growth rate, you're looking to exit at 3 million in future. So for a 3 million unit, your profile of buyers will be households who earn 20K and above. So next, we also talk about upcoming supply, because there's so much transformation happening in the Bayshore area. Okay, right over here, this plot of land that I've circled is actually where Vela Bay will be at. However, there are other plots of lands that have not been developed yet or have not been released for sale. So right beside us is a residential plot. Opposite us, there's also a residential plot. Right beside, further down the road, there's also another one. These two over here are earmarked for BTOs, but you have another two plots that are unknown. This blue plot over has recently been launched for GLS, so this will yield 1,280 units. It is an integrated development right above Bedok South MRT. So you might face competition from this particular GLS. Because the real question is, will your buyer actually value a seafront unit? So if they do value a seafront unit, I think that is okay, because along the whole coast, there are very limited seafront condos. There's only, in fact, 8 in total. But however, if the buyer more amenity-led, then that might be an issue. The whole Vela Bay sells on the whole seafront story, sea-facing units. But do seafront units really command a higher premium? Comparing Costa del Sol with sea-facing and the Bayshore, which does not have sea-facing units, you can see that the price appreciation, there is a big difference. Costa del Sol, we're looking at 145% price appreciation, while the Bayshore only at 98% price appreciation. So I think another point to note is, because right beside Vela Bay, there's also an upcoming development. So this is especially important if you're buying into the whole seafront story. You want to make sure that your unit really faces the seafront and it's not blocked. Okay, then we move on to Tengah residences in the west. So what will be your exit strategy? First of all, it will definitely be the HDB upgraders, because in Tengah itself, there are so many HDB flats that will be MOP. In fact, a total of 21,000. So you're looking to exit in 2030. Of course, these MOP flats are spread across many years, but you still have a decent amount that's ranging from 2030 onwards, up the way all the way until 2032. As the town fills out with ACS Primary School moving there, as Jurong Region Line becomes a daily part of your life, upgraded pool will also gradually grow. And I think for Tengah Garden Residences itself, it's situated right here beside Hong Kong MRT. If we go further up, we can see that these two plots of land are zone blue, right beside Tengah MRT station. So this might be potential competition in future, but however, most of the time integrated developments are priced higher. So with Tengah Garden Residences at 821 PSF and launching at 2100 PSF, I think you still do have safety buffer. So if the two plots of land come on later on, right, it will also benefit you, because once Tengah proves itself, buyers will then come in at higher prices, especially for investors who miss the early entry. So you as the early buyer will actually benefit from the repricing. But one thing to note that it is right beside the Hong Kong station. So this Hong Kong MRT station is actually above ground. It's not Bayshore MRT that's below ground. People might have missed out is Hong Kong MRT station have actually been delayed not once but twice already. It was actually stated to complete in 2026. Then it shifted to 2027 and it was announced that it will be delayed another 6 months to 2028. So one more delay, you might actually collect keys before the MRT even opens. One common objection would be the noise coming in from an overground MRT. So which site you select in Tengah Garden Residences is also important. But fret not, LTA has really come out with noise barrier projects that will reduce the noise to make it livable. So if you bring it all together, I'll summarize these two projects like this. So Vela Bay, you're really paying a premium for waterfront address, which is quite rare in the East Coast. There's only 8 developments right now. But of course, the risk is whether that premium is justified paying for a seafront, for a sea development. So Tengah on hand, you're getting in at a much lower entry price, but it's also a town that hasn't proved itself yet. But the land cost advantage is really real. The first mover positioning really work in your favor. So I know we all got very strong opinions about the east side and the west side. Which side is the best side? So drop it in the comments below. Which side do you think is the best side? You want to go deeper into the stack analysis, do drop me a message. The link is in the description below.